Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of the Everyday Preparedness Podcast at everydaypreparedness.net. You can get a hold of us at edpreparedness@gmail.com. Find us on Twitter at edprepare. Like us on Facebook, facebook.com/edprepare. We also have a YouTube page. You can subscribe and check out all our podcasts and video reviews of products on there. Today we're going to talk about probably one of the more popular things in the preparedness community, and that's the bug out bag. Usually when you start searching for preparedness information, you see bug out bags, 72-hour kits, all that stuff everywhere online. So Brent's going to carry this show today because honestly when I first got into preparedness, that's one of the first things he was telling me about was you got to get a bug out bag. So Brent, I'll let you take the floor.
All right, I appreciate it, man. Like you said, the bug out bag is kind of the big deal among, like, you know, prepper circles and preparedness areas and everything. There's so many different places you can go get this information. I went whenever I first started getting into this, you know, a few years back. I don't remember how many different websites I got on, how many different forums. There's so much information out there. So we figured, hey, you know, why not add our own little 2 cents to all of it? But I am going to give one website that I know that actually helped me a lot whenever they put it out. I'd already kind of had a bug out bag, but this helped me kind of refine it a little bit, kind of fine-tune stuff, change a couple things out, and give me some kind of interesting ideas here not too awful long back. And that's the Willow Haven Outdoor website. Zane, have you been on that one?
Yeah, you sent me the link ages ago from Art of Manliness, I believe. They shared it. And even after I got my bag put together, I've probably gone back to that. I probably go back to that thing once or twice a year, just like you said, to refine it, just to kind of check it out, see if I missed anything, see if there's something I could do without, and just kind of, I don't know, piece it together like a puzzle.
Yeah, and like I said, I mean, I don't remember the actual guy's name that runs it. There's probably no chance he will ever hear this at all. If you do, hey, we're with you, you know, good on you, but anyway, like I said, it's Willow Haven Outdoor. I think it's willowhavenoutdoor.com or something like that. Just type in Willow Haven Outdoor, hit search, and it'll go right to it. There's a lot of good information from, like, you know, kind of like we're talking here with the bug out bags all the way to using a tampon for survival. Let's all hope to God we never get there, but hey.
Yeah.
It's an interesting thing. Anyway, like I said, there's a ton of other websites. You know, just check them out. You know, if the big thing with the bug out bags is it has to be personalized. We can give you this huge list of stuff that we have, and, you know, you may start, you know, putting it together and everything, and you're like, well, this doesn't work for me. That's fantastic. You know, find what does. We're just trying to give you some guidelines. You know, as with everything else, this is just, here's some tips and hints, you know.
And I think if you go through putting these bags together and you don't have that happen to you, there's probably something wrong. You're probably not doing something right if you're not saying this does work, this doesn't work. What can I change?
Well, exactly, because I mean, you know, whenever I first started doing this, and I finally got you talked into, you know, looking at this stuff up and everything, we had a lot of conversations. You're like, well, hey, I'm going to put this in for this reason, and you know, I'm like, well, that's weird. I'm not, but, you know, whatever. And that's the type of stuff you're looking for. Our situations are different. And, you know, that's great. That's what you're wanting to do. That's the type of thought, you know, you need to put into this. So let's go into some ideas surrounding the bag. The number one thing on my mind was redundancy. There's a few things that you can't do that just for weight, space, you know, whatever. But for a lot of things, the really crucial, critical parts like your water, food, shelter, stuff like that, there's no reason to not have a couple built-in backups at least.
Well, hold on one second. I mean, I'll play kind of devil's advocate, I guess. Why do you think you need a bug out bag in the first place?
You never know what'll happen. I mean, I know that's kind of the weird, you know, kind of the generic thing to say. But storms are coming. You don't have a time to do much. You know the storm's heading your way. You need to get out. You can grab the bag, throw it in the car, and leave. You know, God forbid anybody's house catches on fire. You've got stuff to survive on. You can grab it. You can leave. If you're in a situation like Katrina, something like that. I mean, natural disasters are the big, common, easy thing to point at and be like, hey, see, this is why if you had something in a bag together, some change of clothes and stuff like that, you can grab it and go in an emergency situation.
So would you say that it's basically like get home bag on steroids, like we talked about on the last episode about get home bags?
You can look at it that way, definitely. Another way you can look at it is just another, almost like a Lego piece to everything else as far as like your EDC, your get home bag, and your bug out bag.
Which goes back to the redundancy that you were talking on. You can continue with that.
Well, right, and that's, one way you can even ensure some of that redundancy. Your everyday carry stuff, we talked about, some stuff that's nice to have with it. If you've got that, you've got your get home bag. These should all kind of build on each other and increase your redundancy, and hopefully, at least what I like to try to do, and I know you're kind of big on this too, is have it almost fit like Lego pieces. So that way, you just kind of grab it, you strap it on, it's all together, and you go.
Since we're talking about this, I'll get your opinion real quick. We're both huge fans of redundancy, but do you think it gets to the point, based on the weight or size, that maybe the redundancy becomes too much and you maybe need to take something out of the get-home bag that you have in the bug-out bag or your EDC or, any way you could fit that combination in?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. You can, let's just look at change of clothes. I mean, if you've got a change of clothes in your get-home bag, or, even kind of your everyday, like your car stuff like we talked about, that may be something you can forego in one of the other bags. I mean, you don't need to be carrying a closet around.
Yeah, that's one thing I need to get into better practice of, because I think I heard somewhere where like your bug out bag shouldn't weigh more than like 25 to 30% of your body weight so you can carry it, something like that. And, my bug out bag, I keep trying to take stuff out that I have elsewhere, but then I feel like I need these extra lighters, I need these extra trash bags and stuff, and even though that stuff doesn't weigh very much, the more stuff of that you cram in, the less room you have, and then eventually it starts piling up, and it's just hard to carry.
Well, it does, and that's the weird thing. I mean, if you have so many things piled into the bag, you open it up, and your first thought's, holy crap, what do I have? You probably have a bit of a problem, at least maybe a little bit of overkill. I would hate, if I actually had to grab a bug-out bag and leave, I would hate to sit there and try to carry around a 75-pound backpack or a rucksack or whatever it is I'm using.
Yeah, and I'll bring up another comment on that. Most people in the preparedness community look at the bug-out bag and they think that, you're taking this bag and you're going out to the woods to rough it for however long, but that's not always the case. It could just be similar to the get-home bag getting you from point A to point B, or maybe it's you're bugging in the house and everything in the bug-out bag is all you need, kind of together in one nice little kit. What's your thoughts on that?
You're absolutely right. Maybe, you lose power and everything, and instead of, searching the house, you have everything in that one little kit. And it may be that something happens, and the only place you can get, to safety or whatever is a 2 days walk away. What are you going to do? You're going to grab the bag and you're going to start hiking. And then it's just point A to point B, and it's not, we've mentioned this before, and a lot of people in your kind of preparedness circles, I think, go way overboard, because like you, they're like, well, I need everything in my bag to survive a zombie apocalypse.
Yeah.
And it's like, really, I don't think you do. And so it's something that, like I said, it fits with the situation. For some people, they may be going to the woods somewhere to rough it for a week. If that's your thing, adjust accordingly. It's not mine. It's something that I may have a couple days walk ahead of me, and I would like to have the bag, to get me there. And that's kind of how I built mine around. So.
And just focusing on the key things that are going to be in your area, personalized to you, not, that's like you said, there's all kinds of information out there. One thing I can say is almost every single site that I would go on said, you need a fishing kit. Well, what if you live in the middle of an urban sprawl? I don't think you're going to need a fishing kit, and that's just that much more room of something that would take up compared to, like, you might use a fishing kit if you live in a rural area. That's just one example I thought of real quick.
Well, something even like the fishing kit, I think, depending on how you're doing it, because I actually have one in mind, and mine's nothing fancy. It's bare bones. It is actually, I fit all of my stuff in an Altoids tin, and it takes up literally just that much space. I mean, it weighs next to nothing, and, slips in pretty easily. I mean, if nothing else, I could always take it out, slip it in a pocket or something like that. So, I mean, that may be something, you can look at. And, I mean, it sounds kind of cheesy, and it's like, what the hell are you going to catch with that? Well, whatever I can. I would rather have that than nothing. So...
Yeah, and I guess you could maybe use the fishing line and the hooks and stuff. Like, if you had to, you could use it for other things, I suppose.
Yeah, but I mean, like you said, I mean, if you're in a, kind of urban environment, the only thing you may be trying to catch is, a koi.
Yeah.
So, but anywho.
So let's move on to the bags. What kind of bags are you recommending, or what are we looking at here?
The one I got was a cheap, I say cheap, it was a little bit more money, but, got it at Walmart. It was big enough to fit everything I needed and, have a little bit of room to spare. I think we ended up with the same one at one time.
Surprisingly, yeah, I have the same one still.
And, I mean, it works great. It's got the little kind of molly straps on it and everything. I mean, it's not your true military type molly, but it fits and takes all that stuff. You can lash things to it and everything. But a good bag's going to be whatever is easy to carry, full of weight, and will hold everything. And in my personal opinion, keep it organized. I wanted a lot of compartments to keep stuff in, to keep it all separate. So when I open it up, it's easy to find stuff, and I can visually find it really fast.
One other thing I'll throw in too is don't just go out and get some kind of cheap book bag backpack. If that's all you can afford for the time, that's fine. But you really need to spend the money and get a good quality bag. And one other thing I'll get your thoughts on that I see a lot everywhere is the kind of the argument between having the gray man mentality where you just want to look like you're blending in versus having tactical. If you have the tactical gear, sometimes it's camo, sometimes it's not, whatever. It's a lot more usable for the purposes of packing this stuff. It's way more organized, it's way more versatile. But people say that you use that stuff, you're going to stand out and look like a target, as opposed to using the basic packs, which they look a lot more boring, but maybe they don't have all the compartments or the straps or anything. So what's your opinion on that?
Personally, in a true bug out situation where I'm planning on living out of a backpack for, 2-3 days, maybe up to a week, the only thing I'm worried about is I don't want like bright orange and bright red and bright pink and colors like that. But as far as, the tactical looking this and that, if you're in that type of situation, chances are if somebody is that desperate and they see you with any sort of backpack at all, I don't care if it's an old school JanSport school bag.
Nice.
They're going to think you have something they need. And that's kind of, one of the big criticisms of the gray man philosophy is, okay, well, it's all well and good to try to blend in, but unless, you're carrying it all strapped to your legs and can hide it and literally disappear, in a desperate situation, people are going to see you and they're going to think you have something you have, or that you have something they need. So while I agree to a point with the gray man thing in this scenario, at the same time, I would get the bag you want with the compartments and the organization you want versus worrying about how it looks. Like I said, the only thing I would worry about is like bright orange, just any bright colors that would cause you to stand out. So, I mean, if you're walking through a woods and, you see some other people, they may not see you if you're a ways off, with a black backpack or something. But if you've got a flaming orange bag, they may see you a ways off. I mean, that may be a little paranoid on my part, that's fine. But like I said, I would go for what works for you versus anything else, honestly, on that.
And we've mentioned that some of these websites will pre-package these bug-out bags with, full of everything you need, supposedly. And sometimes they're decent, but all their backpacks are always bright red. Yep. And that's not something we recommend. So, if you wanted to just kind of a grab-and-go thing, you could check out one of those pre-made bug-out kits and then just dump it out and buy your own bag and put all that stuff in there. That's the easiest way to do to start off, I suppose. If you just need something and you don't have a lot of time or money, you just want to have something and you can build from there. That's a great way to do it. So we'll circle back around to talking about redundancy. So what's the first thing you got in your bag? Water, you said, right?
Yeah. The first thing I worry about is water because it's just a fact of survival. Again, the bug out bag is for multiple days. This isn't just a 24-hour period or something like that. And water, you can live a few days without food. You can't live a few days without water. I mean, you're making it like 3 or 4 days, and that's under good circumstances. So water is your most important thing to try to get in this type of situation. So I was actually going to ask you, because I know we kind of had some different ideas on the get-home bags and everything with water. I was going to see what you actually did on that.
On my bug-out bag?
Yeah.
I think I've just doubled up what I have in my get-home bag. I don't physically carry any water except for, I always have a bottle of water in the car that I could just throw in my pocket, or multiple bottles anyway. But in the bag, I don't, and that 2 reasons. 1, it's added weight, and 2, the possibility of it leaking or spilling. So all I have in mine is a really cheap, like, collapsible water bottle, like kind of like a little bladder type thing. And then I've got the purification tablets, coffee filters to use as actual water filters, and the life straw, of course. And then you have your fire capability to boil any of the water. And that's all I have in mine.
Well, see, I'm actually not too far from you on that then. The life straw is kind of one of my big ones in there. I've actually got another straw that I don't remember. I should have pulled it out and looked. I don't remember the actual manufacturer or anything of it. I got it at a store in the area. And it's actually supposed to be able to do like the heavy metals and all that. So if you're around contaminated water, like heavy metal, like radiation type stuff, you should still be able to use this for the most part. How well it works, I don't know. The reviews were decent whenever I looked it up. So, I'm not going to go, drink from radioactive fallout water.
Yeah, no kidding.
But, so I've got the life straw in that. I've got some of like, you said your purification tabs and everything. And I actually added, this was the first water thing I ever got and put in my bug out bag was a Sterapin. Have you seen those?
I'm trying to think. I think I have because I looked them up one time, but I'm drawing a blank right now.
All it is, it's like basically it's kind of like a stick. I mean, it's, kind of like a wedge-shaped thing. It's got this little end on it that you just basically stick in a bottle, a cup, whatever, and you turn it on, and it purifies the water with ultraviolet light. And everything I've seen has been positive. Now that, it's not to say maybe there's not something bad about it, but everything I've seen has been positive. And that was the first thing I put in. The problem with those is you have moving parts. You got to have batteries for it. They make a solar-powered one, but last I looked, it was like $100 and some. And so, you got to have batteries you can tear up, and there's your redundancy thing. You've got your Sterapin, which you can use, and that's great until it doesn't work. You should have backup batteries and everything, but, let's face it, if you're already in a terrible situation, chances are things are going to get worse. And so then you could always switch to your life straw, your tab, your little purification tabs, and like you said, the fire and all that. And that's one other thing I've got is to have a cup or something you can boil water in.
I totally forgot about that. I'm going to cut you off for a minute. I bought actually, people can make fun of me for this. I don't care. I bought a Bear Grylls canteen. It's like the classic military-style canteen. Mm-hmm. It comes with a metal cup, and it comes with a sleeve thing that you can actually, if you wanted to, hook it to the outside of your pack with a carabiner. And I think it was like $15 or $20. It was super cheap compared to all the actual other canteens with metal cups I was looking at. So I just thought I'd throw that out there.
Oh, hey, no, that's great. Like I said, the metal cup is kind of it's a big one. Because, everything fails. The life straw even has a limited lifespan. Now, granted, you should be able to go for the time, that you usually allot for a bug-out bag. But, things happen and who knows what, So being able to boil water is fantastic. And I don't care if it's Bear Grylls or what it is. If it works, I'll use it.
Anything else to touch on the water?
I would add that the bladders are a very nice thing to have. I know the bag we got actually came with a bladder and a bladder pocket. At least mine did.
So you're talking the full size backpack ones, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And it just slips in there, and it's got the little bite to drink and bite to close and everything. Little tube, that kind of stands there by your shoulder. Filter your water, boil it, do whatever you have to do, and you can fill that up, and then you don't even have to carry it, anywhere else. It's on your back. It's easier to carry weight like that. So that's always another option you can have. I've actually got a old just plastic water bottle that'll fit. I can fit the life straw down, and I can just fill it up, drink right out of there with the life straw, and not have to worry about, drinking from the source or something like that. And I can do it while I'm on the move.
And you can continue to use the bottle for multiple purposes after you've drank it all. You can refill it or whatever.
Exactly. So that's pretty much all I've got for.
I'm assuming food would be next on your list. Am I right?
Yep.
Okay.
That's what I've got next.
I'll be honest, like when I first got into it, I was just trying to throw something together so I could have something and then build from there. And the first thing I threw in there was like some small canned goods, which I think would work, but you're talking about some serious weight and size there. So I'll let you take this. What are you packing in yours?
I have Cliff Bars, and then I have those, they're like, what's the name of them? They're basically the little kind of calorie energy bars. They're Coast Guard approved or whatever it is. Can withstand temperatures up to like 120, 40 degrees.
Yeah.
And down below freezing and everything. That's honestly what I'm using, and it's just, I have enough to have, I think it's 12 or 1,400 calories a day in mine for about 3 or 4 days. And honestly, they take up a little bit of space, but versus canned goods, you're doing a little bit better. Now, canned goods are great if that's all you've got to throw in, grab a can of corn and go to town. But, these are a lot easier. You don't have to worry about prepping them. All you do is you just open them up and just start eating. And, you can always close them up. And I store mine in Ziploc bags, just like I do in my get-home bag when we talked about it. And, so if I don't want to finish it or whatever, I can just put it back in there. It's sealed. I don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, that's one thing I really want to emphasize is many times, you see on websites, mostly on the websites trying to sell you stuff actually, more so than the people giving you advice. You see that, they have all these gourmet freeze-dried foods, which are good, but I don't think they can go in a bug-out bag. I have some in mind, but I'm thinking about taking them out for size purposes because, the size purposes and time, and that's what I was getting to. The whole idea of this, you don't know what kind of situation you're going to be in, so you're going to want something that you can eat quick, that's going to fill you up, that's not going to take up much room. And while the freeze-dried foods don't take up a lot of room and they're very light, they do take preparation, which also require water, which also requires boiling, which we talked about, always have that metal cup. You can kind of do two birds with one stone, getting your water taken care of and then boiling some more water while you got that fire going so you can cook your food. I think it's an option. It's an okay option. It's better than canned goods, obviously, but what's your thoughts on that?
I agree. I have actually got, or had, one or two in mine. I took them out just because the bars are so much easier. I figure any water I get, I'm needing to worry about drinking, not necessarily using for cooking. So they're a fine option if that's what you've got available. That's fantastic. We sell them on the website and everything, and that's great. The ones I have more for whenever I lose power at the house and I'm, kind of bugging in.
That's exactly what I was getting ready to say. I think they're the best option for bugging in, but maybe not so much bugging out.
Right. I know people that use them for camping and everything, like the Mountain House packs and everything, and those are great. They taste good. I actually enjoy a few of them.
Me too.
And it's just, but there again, it's something else that you have to prepare. And whenever I can grab a Cliff Bar, I don't have to worry about it, and I can just eat and walk and go and all that. It's so much easier to me.
It's easier and it's cheaper, and you can fit a lot more of those in, and I would actually recommend doing that. A lot of people will only prepare enough food for what the supposed calorie intake will be, but as you said, you don't know what you're going to run into. You may need a whole lot more calories than what you think you need. You might eat triple what you would eat on a regular basis based on what you're going to be doing. Or, worst case scenario, maybe somebody else that you're with needs to eat and you've got some extra food for them. So, anything else we need to touch on the food that we've missed?
Just one quick thing. You may eventually, and this is kind of a little bit out there, I guess, but you may eventually end up having to, hunt, kill an animal, harvest, something, roots or whatever it is. And you may have to have a way to prepare that. You may get where, say you're in an extended situation, you run out of bars or whatever, you have a lot of people with you, you want to supplement. Something that is, I don't keep pots and pans in mine just because of weight. I have the metal cup, that's all I've got. Yes, if I can cook it in the metal cup, that's fantastic. But something that's you can use is aluminum foil. I do keep a roll of aluminum foil in there. And it was something I hadn't even thought about until my wife, whenever we got together, she was wanting me to make potatoes on the grill. I just kind of stared at her and, call me stupid or whatever. I to do that, and all she did was throw them up in some aluminum foil and put them on a grill, and, it's quite fantastic. Well, that's a viable cooking option in an emergency situation. I don't know that aluminum foil has too many other uses besides that, but as far as pots and pans, there's a lot of people that'll recommend you get the ones that stack and, they close in around each other and everything. But, those get heavy. And unless you're like if you're in a family situation, it may be a different story. But for my money, I was better off on aluminum foil if I had to prepare something on my own. So that's just some food for thought. No pun intended.
So what's up next on your list as far as importance?
I actually have shelter. And I kind of wavered on this between shelter and protection. I went ahead with shelter just because, sometimes you can make up your own protection stuff. The shelter's kind of something you really need to, plan for and kind of prepare ahead on, I think. Something you can use is tarp, trash bags, the bivvies, like you said, the ponchos with the grommets. The ponchos without, I know we talked about this on the get home bag, but the ones without, they may be great for keeping the rain off, but that's about it. And, you've got sleeping bags and blankets. You may or may not need that depending on your situation. I don't actually keep a sleeping bag in mine. I do have one of the emergency bivvies, and that's about all I use. I have actually, I take that back. I just ended up buying a fleece sleeping bag that I can roll up and just clip to the bottom of my bag.
Yeah, one thing I decided to just do is go with a wool blanket, the emergency bivvy, and some of those cheap space blankets.
Yep.
But because, and of course you have a tarp and maybe the poncho. If you just combined all that, you're probably going to be able to make shelter and keep yourself warm. I did not choose to go with the sleeping bag because of two reasons. One, it seems like if you want to get a decent one that is actually a good size to fit on your bag, you're going to have to pay an arm and a leg to get it, and I wasn't willing to do that when I had everything else already on me. And the other thing is just the space. Yeah. Like I said, it seems like they're so big, and I'm, just trying to get by here. I'm not packing for the end of the world forever,
Right. I know you can go, because I looked at one time at actually getting one of the really nice, 0 or 10 degree sleeping bags and all that. You can get ones that'll pack up into a space the size of, a small football. I mean, honestly.
Yeah, I've seen them.
And they're great. I'm sure they're fantastic, but they're also $300. Like you, I wasn't willing to spend that. The one I got, I think I paid $5 or $6 for, honestly. And it's just a little roll-up fleece sleeping bag. There's absolutely nothing fancy about it. I figured, well, if the zipper breaks and I can't actually use it as a sleeping bag, I've still got a blanket.
Yeah, or something you can just lay on.
Right, yeah. And so I went ahead and did that. And like I said, I can, just lash it to the bag on the outside and don't have to worry about taking up space inside. And it's actually not that bad. But I'm kind of like you. The bivvy, the space blankets, and a wool blanket or something like that is fantastic. Obviously, wool is going to be your best option if you're taking a blanket because it'll still retain heat even if it's wet.
Yeah, the wool blanket put a little bit more weight onto my pack than I thought it would, but I think it's something that's so essential you just got to put it in there.
Yeah, I think the wool blanket's something that is, yeah, I'm like you. I think it's got enough benefits that it outweighs the weight, honestly. Again, let's deal with me on these stupid puns.
I don't know, but that's pretty cool if you ask me.
I guess, but it's not even.
It's given a nice comical approach to our show, unlike some people. You need guns and gold. The world's gonna end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
speaking of,
can have that. So.
Speaking of guns, let's move on to protection.
Yeah, that's actually what I was going to next. As far as protection goes, knife and a firearm. And possibly even a backup, depending on, your mentality.
Okay, so let's break it down here. Let's not talk about EDC carry knives or guns or anything. Let's just say the knife you're going to keep in your bag. What would you recommend, or what do you need style-wise?
For me, my ideal bug-out bag knife, it's not the one I have. I have one that I absolutely love, so I don't need to feel like I need to spend the money. Would be something along the lines of the SE5. I don't know if you're familiar with those or not, but
I'm familiar with the brand, but not that model.
That knife is like almost a 1/4 inch thick on the back spine, and I mean the thing was literally built for like the SEER training in the military, and I mean it's used to like cut your way out of like aluminum, like airplanes and choppers and stuff like that. I mean the thing is a tank, but it's also like $150, $60, and I wasn't willing to do that. So what I actually do, if you can afford that one's fantastic. There are other options out there that are equally good. Some of them are a little bit cheaper. I own 3 SE knives. I absolutely love every one of them, and I cannot recommend that brand highly enough. But the one I actually keep is the SE3. That is what is in my bug out bag, and it stays there. It's actually the SE3 mil. So
one thing I want to jump in and say, since we were talking about the price of knives. We should have said this earlier. One thing to focus on, you want to get good quality equipment, but don't go in debt or put yourself in a bad situation to buy some of this stuff, because this may be stuff you never use. It may be stuff you use all the time, but you want to get something good, find a nice, easy balance there. I'll go ahead with the knife that I carry. Again, I was looking at something kind of on the cheaper end, but I wanted something that was reliable and good. And I actually found a really good versatile one, and that's the Cold Steel Bushman. Have you seen it?
Yep.
It's as basic as it gets, but the cool thing is it's got an open handle, so you could put a stick or a tree branch into it, make it a spear if you had to, or make it a kind of a hunting weapon of some sort. You could do all kinds of different things with it. It's very, very light because there's nothing to it but the steel itself, and the sheath kind of sucks on it, but again, it's something that's good to throw in your bag. I think I paid about $20 for it. It's like 7-inch knife, pretty nice. So that's all I got on the knife, so let's move on to firearms.
Well, what do you actually keep in yours? I know you had bought a couple things, I think, thinking about it, but I didn't ever actually get what you actually carry in yours.
Are you talking about firearms?
Yeah.
I'm actually not... I'm actually... Well, I would just have an AR and a 22 for 2 different people, but I don't actually have anything in my bag. It's just something I'm going to have to grab. And as far as that would be the rifle side of it, because I would assume that you would want to carry that for multiple reasons. As far as just like a sidearm, it's usually something that I have with me every day, or something that's locked up in a safe in my car or something like that. So it would be my Springfield XD9, or I have the 357, which is, I would not want to use that. I would not want to take it. But if I had to, it's better than nothing to pair with the rifle. So go ahead with what you're carrying, or what's your thoughts on that in general.
Well, I don't remember if I mentioned this in the Everyday Carry podcast or not. I don't think we got into guns or anything. But I actually carry one gun all the time where I legally can. I actually usually, since I've lost weight and can, I've actually gotten into carrying 2 guns now. It's not that I'm paranoid or anything. It's just, you never know whenever, I'm left-hand dominant. You never know when I, hurt my left hand and need to protect myself with my right. And, that way I can have a gun for either hand. Maybe that's too far overboard for some people, but that's where I'm at with it. It's kind of the whole 1 is none and 2 is 1 type mentality, I guess.
There's multiple reasons that are good for carrying 2 if that's the thing you want to do, because of what you just said. Maybe somebody else needs to use one, and you're constantly traveling with somebody who either doesn't carry or needs to carry and forgets their gun that day, or there's multiple reasons why.
Yep. But I carry an XDM and Smith & Wesson Shield. Absolutely love both guns, and in my actual bag I only have backup ammo. I haven't even decided to do a rifle except for what I keep in my truck, just because of weight. I mean, ammo is one of those things that just adds a ton of weight in a hurry.
Yeah, let's get into that right off the bat, because that's one thing I was going to ask you next. You said you're only carrying backup ammo, so Do you carry extra mags on you?
Yeah, that's everything I have is actually in a magazine for each gun.
No, I'm saying like physically on you. Do you carry? Okay, so you got the 2 guns with 1 mag, obviously in each. So how many extra mags are you carrying in your bag then for each gun?
I have 2 for my XDM, 2 of the 19 rounds, and I have 2 of the 8 rounds for my Smith & Wesson. I'm actually hoping to increase that, but so, I mean, that's what, like 38, and then I've got another, what is it, like 16? So whatever that comes out to, like, was it 54 or whatever?
That may seem like, to your average person, why do you need that many rounds if you're just trying to survive? Well, depending on what happens, if you had some kind of massive gunfight in an urban environment and you're just trying to run and get out, that stuff could go quick.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, in all honesty, I was reading a story the other day. A cop got into a shootout with a suspect, and I think he ended up finally killing the suspect. It was like shooting at him with like his like final round, I think. And I mean, he fired like 40-some rounds. And that's not specifically why, but it was just one of those. I mean, that guy carries, I think he said 140-some rounds every single day now because of his experience in that one situation. And, yeah, there is just an almost infinitely slim chance of me being in that situation. It's just, if I am, I would like to have at least a little bit of backup. And even if, say I have to resort to hunting or something like that, I mean, granted, a 9mm isn't exactly what I want to hunt with, but, if it's your only choice, it's your only choice. And, that takes multiple rounds. I mean, it takes more than you think to go hunting. So, and like I said, I carry a .22 rifle, usually around me. So, I mean, I've got that for a lot of stuff, a long gun. I haven't, honestly, I know a lot of people are like, oh, you got to have the AR in your bug-out bag and this and that. And that's fantastic if you can make room for it. Whenever I first started, I tried to load up, 100 rounds or so of ammo for my AR. And it, like, doubled the weight of my bag. I'm like,
yeah.
You got to be kidding me. And, I mean, ARs, I mean, they're not the heaviest guns around, but if you make it tactical or whatever, like a lot of people are want to do, them suckers get heavy in a hurry.
One thing that I have set up that is, it's more honestly for a bug-in situation, but I could take it with me if I needed to go out, would be the chest rig for the ammo. Not packing it in the bag, but maybe instead of putting the ammo in the bag, keeping it on you, you've got it right there to use. And I think maybe mine holds like 4 handgun mags and then like 6 AR mags, which it's heavy, but it's not so ridiculous. You know what I mean? So
right, and the nice part is it puts all that on your chest versus the bag. If you had to grab that in the gun, it would kind of balance the weight out a little bit. And
that's just something you have to plan ahead for. What you said, the kind of balancing out the act of the weight. Because if you're gonna, if that's what you want to do, you want to carry the ammo on, you want to carry an AR, you want to carry, different barrels for your AR for different calibers. There's all different things you could do. You're just gonna have to kind of supplement that by taking something else out as far as the weight goes, and that's something I'm constantly kind of doing battle with mentally. I'm always finding something that I think I need to take out based on weight because I want it as light as possible, and then I have to really fight. Do I need this? Is it something I already have one of? Maybe I could just do with one of. I don't know. So.
No, I do that too because, I mean, like I said, I sat there and I tried to cram in, however many hundreds of rounds I could physically fit in the bag, and it's like, you've got to be kidding me. And I've got a mag coupler that I use, that I have on the gun all the time. So, I mean, I've got 60 rounds right there. And honestly, I don't know that I wouldn't just throw if I was going to take an AR or something, that I wouldn't just throw an extra couple of mags and just leave the rest.
One thing I'll ask you real quick before we close out on the guns is, do you think that a lot of times in this kind of preparedness community, circles, whatever you want to call it, I think a lot of times people get too wrapped up in the firearms and thinking, I've got to have this, and this, because I think they see too many movies or video games that they have this preconceived fantasy notion of what this is going to be. And I'll give 2 things on that. Number one, I think probably the ammo you're carrying for most situations, even if it's a disaster, is going to be sufficient because there's going to be problems, but still, there's people in this country that can't afford guns, that don't know how to use them. So, I mean, it's not going to be the Wild West every 5 seconds. Yeah, so I'll just get your thoughts on that, and then I'll move on to the second part.
No, I agree. I think it was something that honestly I was guilty of whenever I first started getting into this. It's like, man, I got to have this because I'm going to be living on this bag for 6 months in the wilderness, and I'm going to be shooting everybody around because they're all trying to kill me and take everything I have. And it was kind of one of those. I eventually wisened up, and it's like, you know what? No. Like that Willow Creek site, I think last I saw on there, he keeps, I think it's a 380 with like a box of 25 ammo. I think it's all he keeps in his bag. And I mean, that's enough protection if that's what you've got. And, the rest of it's, if you're looking at like a huge gunfight and the end of the world, I just, if that's your thing, God bless you, I guess. But I think it goes way overboard with a lot of that. Because like you said, most people I think are going to be too busy trying to survive as well to worry about getting into a 100-round gunfight with you in the middle of the afternoon.
And then the second part I wanted to add to that was, who wants to get in a gunfight? I don't want to.
Right.
I don't ever want to get shot or have to shoot somebody. I'm kind of prepared to do that if I have to, but that's people. I guess people get kind of mixed up thinking the government's out to get us, they're out to kill us, but sometimes I think the preppers are kind of that way too. They kind of go off the deep end, and they're the ones actually wanting to kill people and thinking about all these different scenarios that involve, fighting and guns and everything, when they should be thinking about the basics.
Right, and I absolutely agree. Like I said, I'm with you. I don't want to get in a gunfight. I don't want to have to shoot anybody. I sure as hell don't want to be shot. And like I said before, I think most people in these situations are going to be more worried about surviving and taking care of themselves than they are, trying to victimize you. I think we've seen too many movies and stuff where you have your roving bands of bandits and, you have to shoot 300 people. I really don't think that's it. And there does seem to be an element of, like, severe violence in a lot of, I say a lot, in some of your prepper kind of community and stuff, because it's always, well, I'm going to have guns and I'm going to have ammo and I'm going to shoot anybody that comes around. Well, hell, chances are nobody's going to come around. I mean, yeah, it's a possibility. Be prepared for that. But, I mean, good God, if you've got 100 guns and 10,000 rounds of ammo, what the hell are you going to do with it if you have to move? Just kind of blows my mind, I guess, a little bit. But.
Yeah, and I mean, I understand. I understand, obviously, having a lot of that stuff for bug-in situations. But yeah, it's what you said. You've got to move. What are you going to do? And then some people have bug-out locations, which I'm not really. We could get into that in another show if you wanted to. We're at the end of this one, but that's an option. But still, I just think you got to have a lot of this stuff. It's no doubt. But then it gets to a point where you're just wasting time and money.
Yeah, well, I mean, look at a situation like, Hurricane Katrina, and they were all in, like, the dome down there. And it's like, yeah, you had your rapes, you had your thefts, and you had all this and that. Okay, yeah, be prepared for that stuff. But most of the people there were just trying to take care of themselves. I mean, it wasn't like every single person there was trying to rape and kill you. And so, I mean, it just, I'm like you. The whole thing's kind of weird to me, but...
Yeah, moving on. So we've got food, water, shelter, protection. What's next?
I would probably have, it's kind of a toss-up with everything else, but I'll just go here. Probably med kit, like kind of your medical supplies and everything. And this is, there again, it should build on kind of like what else you carry around and everything. But this is kind of, if you're going to go a little bit overboard with kind of the medical kit stuff, I would do it in the bug out bag versus anything else. And obviously you need some sort of like first aid kit. Any backup meds that you need or anybody that you're with needs. I even went so far as to, I have like a field surgery kit in mind. I mean, it's not like I'm going to be, trying to perform open heart surgery in the middle of an open field. But, sometimes you get a deep cut, you need to sew it up and stuff like that. That stuff's good to have, like your suture kits and all that. Like I said, I'm not planning on, removing an organ or anything, but sew up a major wound or something like that, I have some of those quick clot kits. Have you seen those?
Yeah.
And I've got a couple of those in there. Those things are great. I was not sure about those until I took a gun training course, and I was getting a crash course in preparing a sucking chest wound. Yeah. And, I mean, the guy was just, we're on a range. Bad things happen sometimes with guns. So here's something you need to be aware of in case I'm incapacitated or whatever. And I was like, holy crap. And I mean, he had like a pile of these clot kits, and he swore by them. And it's a guy that, whose opinion I kind of, learned to trust and everything on a lot of stuff. And so I'm like, well, hey, they're not that expensive. We're going to throw some in. And things to sterilize, wounds and different things, and even just for hand sanitizer and stuff like that. That serves multiple purposes. And don't forget, like, bite and sting kits, which is probably one of the more important things you're going to get. Because, I mean, hell, you're always getting bit or stung by something out, wandering around. At least I am. Seems to be. I'm like a magnet for the things. And I've also got toiletries listed under this as well. And that's something, if you're out for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 days, you're going to have to go to the bathroom. You're going to have to try to keep yourself clean. A roll of toilet paper and some sanitizing wipes and stuff like that's probably not a bad idea. What do you got?
Start with the medical stuff. I pretty much have everything you listed, but I purposely went overboard because I think it's something that is maybe as important as food and water, maybe even more important than shelters, keeping yourself, fixed. You could have all the guns in the world and all the food, water, and shelter in the world, but if you're bleeding out, or you're not going to last very long. So I was, getting all this stuff together and having a problem kind of keeping it organized and fitting it in my bug out bag. And the one solution I found was the roll-up medical kits. I believe it's the Blackhawk brand too, which they put out really good products. And it will roll up into the size of kind of a small sleeping bag. So I was able to stuff that into my bug out bag, or you can attach it to the top, either way. And that's what I put in place on the top in place of the sleeping bag. I figured it was more important since I had the wool blankets and the tarps and all that. But I mean, in my medical kit, I have basically everything you said. But then I also have like toothbrush, dental floss, a little like a stylus flashlight, like a pen light, stream light. By the way, it's the best brand of those. And just kind of some other odds and ends of basic things that would keep you more comfortable. I think I have some like Tic Tacs in there. Right. I mean, that may sound silly, but sometimes if if you just pop a mint in your mouth, it'll make you feel better.
I've got Altoids actually instead of Tic Tacs, but yeah, same principle.
Same thing, yeah. So that's what I have on the medical. And then what I already forgot. What was the second part?
Well, just like sterilization stuff and toiletries, which you've already kind of...
Yeah, I already mentioned that. I do... Let's see. I don't have any toilet paper at all, but I do have, I think, 2 packs of wet wipes, just because I think they're going to be more durable than the toilet paper. Their packaging is more durable, and I think they have more multiple uses. So...
Yeah, no, I agree. I actually have a roll of toilet paper. I had room for it, so I thought, why the heck not? But no, I'm like you. I've got a pack of the wet wipes and everything, and they serve multiple different purposes as well, which is always nice in a bag. Redundancy is great. Multiple uses is also something to try to think about on these bags and everything. But yeah, don't forget like the toothbrush and toothpaste and stuff. I mean, you can go get a travel size stuff, throw a couple of them in there. Hell, my dentist gives them away for free.
Yeah.
And I actually kept it in the bag that he gave it to me in. I mean, it came with a little small bottle of Listerine. It's all in this little zipper bag. I thought, you know what? Hell, that's great. It's even got a little loop on the end of it, so if I needed to, I could attach it outside something. And, it didn't cost me a dime. My dentist was happy to give it to me. So I'm like, hey, why not use, resources available?
So I think we've covered most of the main things. Am I missing anything before? I mean, I think we're kind of on to the just miscellaneous stuff at this point, unless I missed something.
Well, change of clothes. You've got tools and stuff like that. I mean, you could get into a lot of stuff. the tools are kind of probably the other big, kind of headline item. Something that's good is something, a multi-tool, of course, which, if you've carried a multi-tool every time we've told you to, you've probably got a dozen of them now.
And you've probably used them a dozen times.
Right. And that's good. Paracord is another really important thing. I think you said like 100 feet or something in your get-home bag.
Yeah.
I would actually double or triple that for this. I mean, it takes up almost no space. It's real light. It's something that, there's a lot of uses for paracord. If you need to, you can take strands out and set snares for animals and all sorts of stuff. I mean, it's just, there's a lot of good uses for it. I know you mentioned like a good pry bar. You could even include something like nylon rope, even like a machete, which would be different from your other knife, which is also another self-defense tool. Or maybe like a camp axe or something like that.
Actually, let me cut you off right there. The best thing that I've seen people recommend and seen it actually used is combined the knife and the axe would be those kukris. If you get a really good quality, when that style of blade is about as brutal as you can get for self-defense, and that thing chops trees down like nobody's business.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think Cold Steel, I think, makes one that's not too outrageously priced.
No, that seems like they were always out of stock. No, I think they were on the cheaper end, but they're always out of stock. I mean, that's probably why.
Yeah, and I believe it's Ontario that makes one, and I believe Condor makes one that's actually got good reviews. So those are a couple you could check out. And I know Ontario used to make SE stuff, so until SE split off and made their own company. So I mean, they seem to make pretty good stuff too. I'm like you. I wouldn't want to carry like a machete and a camp axe and everything else. I was just kind of listing some stuff. I've actually got a machete in mine, and I always kind of waver off and on like a tomahawk or like a small little hand axe or something. I've never settled down on I need to have it, I don't need to have it, or anything like that. I just kind of have it laying around. I figure if I can grab it, great. If I can't, great. But I do have a machete on mine. Let's see what else I've got here. One of those little folding shovels. If you don't keep it with your get-home bag or in your vehicle or whatever, they are fantastic, and you need to get one and at least have it in your bug-out bag. I know you're a big fan of those, Zan. So
yeah, and that's one thing I was going to mention too is just because you can't fit this stuff in your bag doesn't mean it's not important. Like you said, the shovel just now. I keep the shovel right by my get-home bag in my vehicle. It's never in my bag, but it's right there. And actually, mine has a belt loop on it. Believe it or not, it comes with the shovel actually comes with a little sheath with a belt loop. Same thing with a lot of those tomahawks and some of the machetes. You can just have them by your bag. Maybe you want to strap them to your bag because you can't fit them in there. Just because we keep saying you need to have these things in your bag doesn't actually mean they fit in your bag. You could have them on the outside if you can secure them well enough. But I think I have one small change of clothes. I've got more clothes in my car, and there may, again, preppers blow this stuff out of the water. Just because you're bugging out doesn't mean your vehicle doesn't work. Right. So it could be something as what if your house is on fire? Grab your bug out bag, throw it in your car, and go. Right. Something as simple as that. So I keep a lot of this stuff kind of, we were talking about Legos and puzzle pieces, putting it all together. I keep a lot of the basics in the certain bags, but then I have it set up to where I have multiple bags that I could take or attach or anything like that. So, yeah, that's all I got on miscellaneous. Oh, yeah, one thing, fire, obviously.
Yeah, I was actually getting ready to mention that next. One thing on the clothes, though, real quick, just to go back. One thing I would highly recommend if you don't have somewhere else is have a really good pair of work gloves. If nothing else, if you can't fit, winter gloves and, all this and that, have a good, solid pair of leather work gloves that aren't going to fall apart and all that. And if you don't want to carry, if you don't want to carry like a full change of clothes or whatever, you can. What I do, I don't carry 3 pairs of jeans or pants or whatever and a couple shirts, so I can pick out an outfit or something. I carry a change of underwear and a hat. I have one of those little collapsible beanies that you can fold up basically into like the size of a tennis ball. I mean, it's a little bigger than that, but I mean, the thing just folds up. It doesn't care if it's misshapen. They look misshapen when they're not anyway. And, that's basically all the clothes I really keep in there. Because, if it's a fire or something like that, like you said, I've got extra change of clothes in the car almost at all times. You know, hopefully, I'm not caught literally with my pants down where I'm, bugging out for like 3 or 4 days in my underwear.
Yeah.
But if I do, at least I'll have a clean pair to change into. So, and one thing, don't forget, if you don't have like shoes or anything in a get home bag, have a good, comfortable pair of shoes or like hiking boots or something like that. I really wouldn't recommend steel toe work boots if you're going to have to walk 20 miles. But a good, comfortable pair of shoes to have around is always nice. And never underestimate the use of bandanas. I think I have like 5 or 6 in my different bags all around because there's so many uses for bandanas. So let's go ahead and get into fire now, I guess. So what all do you actually keep in your bug out bags? I know we've talked about like having the Bic lighters and everything. That's kind of the big obvious, hey, let's, grab 100 of those and throw them in. But what else do you have?
I have the exact same things that I have in my get home bag, just more of the same. The Bic lighters, the weatherproof matches, and the cotton balls with the petroleum jelly stuff on them, because those things catch fire like nobody's business. So
Yep.
I figured I wanted to just keep it really basic. Again, we talked about it before. A lot of people want to go with the steel wool in the battery or the little flint stick thing that I'm not going to lie, I can't hardly ever get those things to work. And it's probably just because I suck at them, but that's the whole point. I'm wanting something that works fast and works quick and reliable, and that would be the Bic lighters, and combined with weatherproof matches and some sort of fire tender. So what do you got?
I've got exactly like you. I think I added 5 or 6 more Bic lighters to what I've already got around. And I don't even want to think about how many cotton balls, and I've got one of the big things of petroleum jelly, one of the big solid, things like, softball size.
Yeah.
I finally managed to fit that in there. And then I've got some weatherproof lighters, matches. And I actually went ahead and I finally found, which maybe it's just around here, but I had a hell of a time trying to find the Strike Anywhere matches.
Yeah, I ended up having to order mine online.
I found some at a hardware store.
Oh, wow.
And so I was like, well, hey, it was like $1.50 for a box of like 1,000 or whatever. So I bought like 6 boxes. And so I got an old pill container, took the script thing off, and I filled that full with nothing but Strike Anywhere matches. And put the cap on it, do it in the bag. I couldn't tell you how many's in there, but it's just an extra thing I've got in there. But I'm like you. I've tried and tried and tried using the fire starter. I sit there and I shave the stuff off, and then I try to do the spark, and it's almost like it laughs at me.
Yeah.
And so I just you know what? Screw it. I'm buying a Bic lighter. I have a couple of those in there because they came with my SE knives. So I'm not going to lie. I do have a couple, but they were free with the knife. So I thought, hey, maybe, necessity will, teach me how to do this, I guess. But so I guess that's about honestly all for fire. I mean, I didn't go overly crazy with it. I didn't do the steel wool and the battery and this and that. I mean, yeah, that's one of those things I think almost, seems cooler than is usable. You know what I mean? Which is
a big part of preparedness. It's like, it goes back to what we were saying. Too many people watch too many movies or, play too many video games or watch Doomsday Preppers. They have this unrealistic expectation of what things are going to be like, and I think it's awesome if you want to learn cool primitive skills like that. That's cool, but I'm sorry, I like to do some other things with my time that are hobbies that are not my mind stuck in this world of preparedness all the time. Like it is, and it is a fun hobby to kind of think about scenarios. What do I need here? What do I need there? What do I need to pack? But I'm not living in this paranoia state. Does that make sense?
Oh no, I'm absolutely with you. Yeah, I mean, learning how to light a fire 16,000 different ways is fantastic. If you want to learn it, go for it. God bless you. That's great. But for me in this situation, it's whatever is easy and works the fastest is what I'm going with, and is most consistent. And to me, a lot of that stuff, I'm not consistent with it, so therefore I'm not going to worry about it. And yeah, I'm like you. A lot of times they get in this mindset that And it's really actually kind of weird because it's like they think they're going to have literally absolutely nothing whenever they're doing this, so therefore they have to buy 700 pounds of stuff to try to carry it with them.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, so which is it? Are you going to have nothing, or are you going to have this stuff? And I mean, I think you can strike a very happy balance with the mindset, and that's what I've tried to do. So,
am I missing anything? I think we're kind of to the end. There's all different kinds of miscellaneous things I could think of based on your area, or maybe you want to put more of something and less of something. But is there anything else really important you're thinking of that I'm not mentioned yet?
There's a couple things. If you can fit, it's fantastic. If you can't, I think you could do without it. One thing that was very important to me, as I mentioned earlier, I seem to be a magnet for like mosquitoes and chiggers, and I can be in the middle of a city and get eaten up by chiggers. I mean, it's ridiculous. So I have bug spray. Or it's actually not bug spray. I have one of those little off fans that you just like clip on your belt and, just start moving. I have one of those I threw in. Extra batteries are always the big thing for flashlights and all that stuff. I keep an area map. I got one at the License Bureau. It was free. I just threw it in there. It's always nice to, you might be surprised how easy it is to get turned around, lose your sense of direction or something like that, maybe, especially on foot. So I keep an area map and I have a compass. Learn how to use the compass. It is not the easiest thing in the world. It's not as simple as just holding it out. Oh, that direction's north. Well, what the hell does that mean? So, I mean, there's more to using a compass and everything than just that. So, I keep a compass in mind. I actually also have wet write paper that you can write on when it's wet. Doesn't tear and everything. Something fun, playing cards, flashlights are another important thing. And the other thing that I have it in every single one of my bags, and that is a Bible. I bought a Bible.
I actually do have one in my bug out bag. I just didn't have it in anything else because I couldn't fit it.
Yeah, and if you don't get hope from reading the Bible, that's fantastic. Find something that is kind of a reminder of hope, because you can get in some very desperate situations, and I don't mean, the EMP has just wiped out life as we know it, and, all that fun stuff, but you can get in a situation for just 3 or 4 days where you need your bug out bag and everything seems absolutely hopeless. The world sucks. Your world is just crashed and burned. Have something, if you're a Buddhist, grab a collection of sayings that make you feel better. Whatever you need to grab. Keep it in there, and it's something that'll occupy your mind, and it's something that helps give you hope. And that's a very important thing in these type of situations that we're talking about. I mean, hell, if your house burns down and, even though you have friends and stuff that are helping you out and everything, you still feel like you lost your entire world. And everything you have is nothing but this bag. You need something you can kind of look at and find some hope. Maybe I'm just overly, stressing that point. I don't know. What do you think?
No, I totally agree, and that could be just day-to-day living. I mean, maybe you're not subscribed to Christianity, or maybe you're not religious at all. But there are points in that book, whether you believe it or not, that are going to give you inspirations for different reasons. But one thing that I will add to the end of this is that think of others while you're preparing. What I mean by that is, do you have kids? Do you have animals? Do you have the people next door? Do they know what you're doing, but they're elderly maybe? So you need to be packing for them, maybe packing their own bags or packing extra stuff. I have to pack for my dogs. I don't care. I'm not leaving them behind if I got to go somewhere. I don't care. A lot of preppers are going to say, oh, you got to kill them because they're going to make too much noise or they'll, bark at stuff. I don't care. I'll take my chances. They're coming with me. One thing, I had to spend a little bit more money on it than I wanted to, but all you got to do is find them it's a nice kind of saddlebag harness setup. I think I paid about $40 a piece for mine, which I'm just a cheapskate. That's really not that bad. But I was able to pack everything in the sides of their bags, and you're asking, what does a dog need to carry? I've got some stuff written down like vaccination papers, extra dog tags, extra leash, extra collar, some food, water, and pictures, pictures of you and them, so if they get lost, you can kind of correlate there. And then anything else, just maybe they need to carry some of your stuff. Right. A lot of dogs are made to work, and it's kind of ingrained in them. If it's a medium to bigger sized dog, they're bred to do some work. So that's all I had. So anything else?
No, I know one thing we actually didn't talk about was having like identification and cash, which I don't remember why, or I don't believe we forgot cash.
I don't know how I forgot that.
Yeah, yeah. But I mean, that's something else, that you need to have on hand and everything, especially in a bug out situation. If you're looking at life may not return to normal for 3 or 4 or 5 days, chances are your cards probably aren't going to work in whatever situation you find yourself in. Cash is something that does. I don't think you need to carry a gold mint on your back or anything like that. I'm not even big on buying gold, but that's a whole different topic to begin with anyway. But yeah, I don't know, I would say at least a couple $100. What would you say on an actual amount?
Yeah, I would say $200 to $500 at least. And that might come in handy, it might not, but I'm just a big proponent of keeping cash on you anyway, because there's too many times where debit cards don't work, credit cards don't work, and that's not even a disaster situation. That's just everyday life. So we could go on and on about different things that you could put in your bag, but I think we've covered the bigger part of it. So with that, we'll close the show, and we're talking about cash. Next episode, we're going to talk about one of my favorite, and that's financial preparedness. So keep an eye out for that. In the meantime, everydaypreparedness.net. Hit us up on email, edpreparedness@gmail.com, on Twitter, @edprepare, facebook.com/edprepare, and of course we're on YouTube. You can subscribe there and check out all our videos and our podcasts as they come if you prefer to listen to them there as opposed to the website. So with that, everybody stay safe and keep going.
Peace.